Welcome to the Connect with BMC Helix webinar series. During today's event, you'll be able to ask questions of our panelists. The questions and answers will be posted along with this broadcast to our YouTube channel. Today's topic is what's new with BMC Helix ITSM Fall 2021 release. I'll turn it over to our product management team to take us through this content.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this latest edition of the What's New with BMC Helix ITSM and Innovation Suite webinar. Glad that you could all join us here today. And on behalf of the BMC product management team, I'd like to welcome all of you to this latest edition of the webinar about our Fall 2021 release, also known as 21.3. Let me just walk quickly through the agenda, what we plan to cover today. After this welcome, I'm going to share a few thoughts around where we are in terms of our overall strategy, right? What is currently important for the product team from a strategic direction perspective, so that you have a little bit of context what drives this release as well as our future roadmap here. But then the main time will be spent on discussing the new capabilities of the 21.3.00 release. And then let me use this as an opportunity to make two comments. Number one, this is initially a SaaS only release, but as you can see on the third agenda topic, we do plan to eventually release this as well to on-premise, and we're going to share some information on that as part of the webinar here today as well. And then I also want to point out that this is the first release where we use our new release numbering. So we continue to use the first two digits as signifier for the year, but then the next number is no longer the month of the year, but we just basically count the releases throughout the year. So this is the third feature release of the year, and then on top of that, of course, there's additional update and patch releases as we go along, right? So I just wanted to highlight that we are moving towards a new numbering model basically for the release numbers, and this is the first one where we applied this a new approach, and the next one is planned to be called 22.1. So again, after the general overview of what's new in this release, we'll have a quick discussion about on-premises deployments, our plans in this area, and then closing out with some additional material. Okay, so let's get started here. Now, as I stated, I wanted to give you a bit of context of how we're currently seeing the market and what drives our development activities. We see that enterprise organizations and also, of course, service provider organizations are struggling to address the need for ever faster innovation, right? This velocity of business needs is ever increasing, and that has an impact on service and to some degree also operations management activity in enterprise IT organizations, but again, even beyond that, even for service providers, right? It's clear that this need for rapid innovation has driven new processes and new organizational structures in many organizations, right? I'm talking about DevOps and Agile, and the fact that more and more these independent product teams emerge in organizations, and that in itself poses a number of challenges from a service management perspective, and we're working on helping organizations be most successful in this transition towards an agile, DevOps-centered organization. And we believe that service management and operations management has a lot of value to deliver for that goal. We see the amount of data exploding, both, of course, on the business itself, but even on the IT side, with better telemetry, better instrumentation. There's ever increasing amount of data available, and more, one needs to rely on AI algorithms to make sense of the data, because there's just so much there that it's hard to just look at this as a person and make sense of it. So more and more AI-driven analysis of that data is important, right? But also the infrastructure and the applications themselves become more dynamic. We see infrastructure change on an almost minute-by-minute basis with a container deployment for many architecture applications. That is changing on a frequent basis. And so that in itself poses a number of challenges around understanding the environment from a service management perspective, and then using that to make smart decisions. And that's a big focus area for BMC, how to make this real-time infrastructure and real-time application architecture visible, understand it, and then again also make use of it as part of our functionality, right? Now, again, manual resolution has always been a challenge, but ever more so in recent months and years, right? With this increased scale, the increased pace of change, it is even more important to be able to automate a number of activities. And again, I always say AI technology is really an opportunity to push the limits on this automation. And this manual approach to either fulfill requests or handle incidents is just not feasible anymore with this increasing scale. And then last but not least, we see that many organizations are struggling with a silo-based organization around service and operations management. And as we have shared in previous discussions, BMC is really bringing those two worlds together to optimize the outcome for our customers, right? So those are some of the trends that we see in the market. And based on that, again, BMC had organized our portfolio around BMC Helix as a joint service and operations management solution based on a unified, modern, AI-driven platform, right? So you can see here in the chart at the lowest layer, it's our BMC Helix platform. This is not just our traditional application development platform and workflow engine that you're all familiar with, right? This really expands into a rich set of common services, one of which is this application and workflow development. But there's many other more operation-centric services as well, and the corresponding data stores, right? All of this is fully AI-enabled. And of course, there's a number of microservices as part of that platform that support specific capabilities that are typically needed by a platform, right? We have our BMC Helix portal now as an entry point into the suite of application modules. We have our BMC Helix dashboards, extremely important in terms of building consistent and cross-product reports and dashboards. We have integration services, we have open APIs, we have ingestion of data. So there's a rich set of microservices that form the entire BMC Helix platform. But again, at the core, of course, our AI foundation that really optimizes then a number of these workflows, right? And on top of that, again, we have these AI-optimized service and operations management capabilities, which we call AI Service Management and AI Ops. Now, one term that I think you've started hearing more and more is this term of service ops that we started to talk about as part of our recent BMC Exchange event. And that really is a reflection that more and more we see workflows and interactions for our users bringing together data from both sides, the service and operations management side, in order to drive intelligent and smart interactions and capabilities that take advantage of both of this information, right? And we'll have a few examples during the course of this session what we mean by service ops, right? Where we again leverage information both from an ops perspective as well as service management perspective to optimize, for example, the management of an outage or a major incident. And then on top of that, we see the employee experience being driven with our familiar omni-channel approach, right? Where you have chatbot interactions, digital workplace, live chat support, knowledge management. These are all business user or end user driven interactions that are also built on top of the same platform, right? So that really reflects our approach to service and operations management, again, built on this unified BMC Helix platform that not just touches our application development environment, right, that we have converged itself, right, as innovation suite, but also includes a number of other platform services. Now let's move on to the 21.3 release specifically, as stated initially only available in SaaS, but very soon also available on premises. And we had a number of very exciting new capabilities that we are delivering with this release. First and foremost, this release was really focused on our intelligent major incident management capabilities, where we are leveraging this concept of service ops to really lead to a collaborative incident response when such major incidents happen, right? We significantly expanded our previous capabilities, and we'll explain during the course of this session what exactly we're delivering in this release. Of course, we continue to optimize our AI capabilities that we introduced, specifically the most recent capabilities around clustering of incidents for proactive problem management and incident correlation. User experience continues to be a big topic, and of course we're also functionally enhancing our ITSM applications. And then last but not least, we want to touch on some of the platform topics with a bit of information about latest enhancements in the reporting and dashboarding area, and in the underlying innovation suite workflow engine, right? So that is really kind of an agenda for the next part of the webinar here. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Harshad. Take it away, Harshad.
Thank you, Peter. So, as Peter mentioned, we are enhancing our capabilities around major incident management, and with this, we would be able to extensively support both types of incident management. So, on the one hand, we are enhancing our standard incident management capabilities, and the focus here is on adding more of the shift left and self-service capabilities. And a key aspect of this is effective collaboration and knowledge management, because tribal or SME knowledge about source of problems or resolutions tend to lie with a bunch of people. This is getting democratized and made available to the frontline staff. And also we are enhancing the communication and collaboration channels. Now this will better equip the frontline to solve customer challenges and then help manage a long tail of incidents received daily. And by continuously enhancing our self-service capabilities through more automation and effective knowledge management, we are also empowering our customers with information, knowledge, and services that they need to resolve their issues faster and directly without needing any help desk agents. So, this dual strategy for managing incidents is key as companies move forward to adopt new service models that leverage the disruptive potential of technologies and practices such as multi channel engagement, intelligent swarming, agile, SRE, or machine learning. In the end, the goal is to make IT support more efficient and timely, resulting in higher customer satisfaction. And on the other hand, there is the prediction and prevention of major disruptions to IT services by making available enhanced capabilities around major incident management module in the 21.3 release. So we have added support for collaboration, communication, compliance, prediction, and prevention while also tightly aligning with AI ops. The goal is to detect and prevent, and if major incidents still do occur, then to resolve them as quickly as possible through effective collaboration, communication, and end-to-end visibility. And what you're seeing on the screen here is a framework for major incident management activities that starts from identification to prevention and all the way up to prediction. Now, every company would have its own framework or approach, and this is not meant to be a prescription of sorts, but rather a more open approach that is based on our learnings from multiple customers and some of the inputs from analyst reports as well. And this starts with determining how major incidents should be identified based on a well defined criteria, and this includes things like a service going down that results in a significant disruption to the business. And of course, real world examples of major incidents are going to vary from one business to the next. So, this process of determining major incidents would typically be an offline one, and then customers would expect some help in grouping the incidents and identifying the ones which are related to the same underlying issue. And we have a new AI based use case as we will see later. And again, once you detect a major incident, you'd have to have someone who is accountable to manage the life cycle of it, tracking it all the way and handling communications. This is a big responsibility. And this role is typically performed by the major incident manager, who is the captain on the ship, so to speak, from a major incident management standpoint. So the assignee will need to assign a major incident manager to the major incident candidate, as we will explore later in our demo. Also, as it happens, during major incidents, it becomes very critical to keep all stakeholders well informed of the status of the disruption, especially senior management in the customer organization, especially if the outage is of a service with high criticality. That task is typically performed by the communications coordinator and is also what we are able to support by assigning this role to a person. And because the accountability lies with the major incident manager, we are empowering this role to form his own team that typically comprises not only of the communications coordinator but also the SMEs or vendor resources who can work together on the troubleshooting and repair activities to restore these services quickly. Post-mortem analysis is important, and again, when they are done in a blameless environment, it promotes the identification of solutions and drives preventive measures to avoid such things from reoccurring in the future. But the overall strategy needs to be centered around prevention and prediction rather than responding to it when it happens. And that is our focus here at BMC when it comes to major incident management. And this is the new AI use case that we had introduced with the 21.02 release, which is for real time incident correlation. And this is based on ticket clustering, which then internally works on AI capabilities around NLP and clustering algorithms. Real time incident correlation deals with real time incidents as they come in the service desk. So, AI models are clustering these incidents on the fly and grouping them together. This helps in understanding which of these incidents are about the same underlying issue or situation. And you would appreciate that this becomes critical as a flood of incidents could indicate an emerging impactful situation, such as a major incident. And one of the personas that could use this dashboard is a major incident manager. And if you look at how they detect emerging situations today, then this is largely through the word of mouth, where agents would look at a ticket console here or a dashboard there and make some suggestions. But again, overall, this is a very manual process, and what customers need really is an analytical process that helps them to identify these clusters of incoming incidents and understand what is currently going on in the service desk. So, a dashboard that shows emerging topics in real time would really facilitate a quick and coordinated response. Also, what is needed is a way to formally relate these incidents and reduce any duplicate work so that incident management activities such as notifications could be streamlined. And lastly, again, you would need system guidance such as probable cause analysis to reduce time to resolution and restore the service as fast as possible. So again, these are some of the requirements of a major incident manager to help them perform their jobs better. In 21.3, we are adding the capability for major incident management to establish, track, and collaborate on major incidents. So again, as you see, this screen is an extension of the existing incident record, and we are reusing it, of course, with changes. So there will be a pill on top to indicate that this is a major incident as against a standard incident. And because this starts like a standard incident, the major incident flag is set to no, and the assignee can change this to candidate and assign a major incident manager on it. If the major incident manager, after his due diligence, selects yes, this is when the major incident is first identified. And then this is the workflow in terms of how an incident record moves from being a standard incident to a major incident candidate and then as a major incident. There are additional options for assigning communications coordinator or other team members on the major incident, such as the SMEs or vendor teams, and to also view other additional details in terms of the date and time when it was proposed as a major incident, and also the accepted or rejected dates, as well as some more details in terms of if there are any legal issues, security issues, compliance issues, causes, etc., which we will explore in the demo. Users can benefit with the linking of a major incident to a probable cause analysis in AI Ops that enables for faster resolution of issues. And by cross-launching into AI Ops, they can explore the probable causes with a probability percentage, look at the nodes in the topology and identify with some percentage of probability what is the likely cause. The context-aware cross-launch is one of the time-saving features when performing detailed troubleshootings when time is of essence. Also, they can add and track impacted services to the major incident as you see on the screen. Lastly, we have added the capability to perform certain predefined common actions such as view recent changes or create tasks, change requests, and also to relate to a configuration item. All of these aids to explore the root causes and assist with a faster resolution. Then there are options for collaboration, as you can see the icon highlighted in red, and once you click on this it creates a MS Teams chat with all the participants and the team members that are involved in the major incident being added to that chat window. So again, this aids in collaboration through ITSM directly, and you can pin this chat window, add more participants to it, and most importantly cross launch into this directly from Helix. With this, I think it's a good segue to jump into the demo of major incident management. Now, as we discussed earlier, this screen is an extension of the existing incident record, and a major incident would start as a standard incident. Now, if the assignee suspects that this is a major incident and have information or reasons to believe that this is one, then they would set the flag to candidate out here. So it is at this point that they set the flag to candidate that a major incident manager can be assigned to the ticket. So let's say the assignee, in our case Paul, sets the MI flag to candidate and assigns the major incident manager, which for the purpose of our demo is another user in the major incident management group by the name Luke Cage. So once this happens, there are two things that goes on in this record. We see that the major incident manager, which is Luke Cage, is added to this record, and also the assignee is as well present in the record. The assignee is carried throughout the life cycle of the major incident record, and we have designed it in this way so they do not drop the ball after assigning it to the major incident manager. And once assigned, the major incident manager can view the record in their console, and it is then for the major incident manager to make an informed decision based on their due diligence and other several parameters if this is a major incident or not. The info on impacted regions, site groups, and customers is for helping them to make the right decision. It could also be from what they hear from the customers or the floor, and this could also include the health of the underlying service, the ticket description, the number of impacted areas and customers, and this is all for helping them to make the right decision. So let's say the major incident manager decides to set the flag to yes and confirm that this is a major incident. Then they will have access to additional fields, starting from assigning a communications coordinator on the record. In our case, the major incident manager assigns Dustin Poirier as the communications coordinator and then saves the record. Now let's go back to this record and see what has changed on the screen. So now we see that the major incident has been marked to yes. A pill displaying major incident has been shown on the top. The launch chat ops option is enabled, and all the roles that have been assigned so far are visible on the record. At this point, there are a couple of things that the major incident manager can do. One is that they can update the additional fields here that enable the major incident manager to record information around cause category, the business impact, or the legal implications, or also update if management has been notified, or classify if this issue is a security issue or a legal issue or a compliance issue. Also, they can add team members to work on the major incident using the plus option out here. The modal window allows for adding multiple team members without needing the back and forth to the main major incident window. There is granularity in terms of defining what access you need when adding stakeholders. Let's see what happens when you add a team member on the record. Now, once you save this added team member, this team member is then visible on the major incident record. The dates here are auto system generated based on the date and time that something is proposed as a major incident or when something is rejected or accepted as such. The other important functionality in major incident management is the ability to create a MS Teams chat through the major incident here and then add all the team members, including the assignee, the major incident manager, the communications coordinator, and the team members on the MS Teams chat automatically so that they are able to coordinate and collaborate towards the resolution of the incident. The other important feature is where you can link a major incident to top probable cause nodes and also cross launch into AI ops to explore the probable causes with a probability percentage, look in the topology to identify what could be the root cause, and then also identify with some confidence what events would have likely caused this incident. Finally, we have the ability to generate email notifications that are sent to the major incident manager and the communications coordinator, as well as the other roles once they are assigned on the incident record. Now, coming to AI service management, we will go through what has been added in the 2021 fall release. So just to recap, in the earlier releases, we had added the ticket clustering use cases for proactive problem management and real-time incident correlation. Both these use cases are based on ticket clustering, which then internally works on AI capabilities around NLP and clustering algorithms. So in proactive problem management, we are leveraging ML-based clustering to identify similarities between historical tickets and clustering them so that problem investigations could then be launched and problems can be mapped against these tickets. The tickets generally indicate an underlying root cause, and creating problem investigations easily off the UI enables problem coordinators to hand over this to problem investigators who could then work on resolving those underlying root causes of the problem that had led to the occurrence of the tickets in the first place. This helps in preventing this incidents from reoccurring in the future and thereby reducing the overall incident volume in the service desk. And in incident correlation, this ticket clustering works by correlating incidents in real time and clustering them so that detection of an emerging impactful situation becomes easier. This also helps with faster reaction to such emerging situations, and it eliminates any manual tasks that are associated with identifying and managing duplicate incidents. Then in the 2021 fall release, there are some user experience enhancements like providing the user the ability to select incidents across pages when they drill down to the incident view from either proactive problem management or incident correlation. Prior to this, the selection was only limited to the incidents that were visible on the page. So a bulk relate was really not possible, and it would have been really frustrating to select incidents on every page and then relate them to problems. Also, you can now persist filters as well as fields when you are on the cluster details page. This has made the UI quite functional, and without the persisting ability, especially on fields, it would have been really cumbersome for users to always rearrange stuff to have their own preferences in terms of field orders or field widths, etc. Also, we have now added functionality to associate duplicates to parents in incident correlation, where there is an additional option which comes in the modal window where you can review the actions and then reconfirm or remove relationships from here without having to go back to the main window. Again, all these are UX enhancements, and the goal is to really make it intuitive, easier, even convenient for users to take actions and use the solution effectively. Then, one of the other key features in the fall release is the AI SM dashboard, and the purpose of this is to track the usage and value delivered by the two AI use cases, proactive problem management and incident correlation. And you would see that there are well-defined KPIs around both PPM and IC, like number of jobs or executions, or number of problem investigations created, or number of duplicates created from the PPM and IC modules. Essentially, the goal is to really keep tabs on how many users are actively using these functionalities, what is the overall value delivered, and is this really a step forward in achieving some of the desired outcomes, and so on. I will now hand it over to John for ITSM UX enhancements and other functional enhancements around service ops.
Thanks very much, Harshad. In this next section, we're going to look at user experience enhancements in the ITSM, Digital Workplace, and Microsoft Teams ChatOps applications. So firstly, let's take a look at Digital Workplace. We've improved the ability to create multiple different workspaces to align to different lines of business. The benefit of this is that different departments within the organization can have their own custom workspaces skills because with their own look and feel, code, easy different information provided to the users as is appropriate for each different business area. The intuitive low-code admin interface enables the task of creating each line of business portal to be delegated out to the process owners in those departments. On the fulfillment records themselves, there's now much more information available to fulfillment teams and to the end users making the requests. Fulfillment teams can see the work orders, change requests and case details in much more detail and can see the better step-by-step tasks involved in fulfilling the request. Requesters looking at the current status of their requests also get much more granular information, which should reduce the need for them to contact the service department manually to get that update. And we'd perhaps expect that for all those stakeholders, the provision of all this extra information gives them a better idea of the overall progress and the expected completion time of their request. There are also enhancements to some of the ticket forms in the ITSM module. For example, the incident form now has access to the impacted areas widget that was already present on changes and problems. This allows you to flag the different parts of the business that are affected by the incident. You can now record additional investigation drivers information in problem management, and as ever, we've looked at opportunities to make small performance enhancements where appropriate on the forms. And finally, there's a direct link to the new Helix Dashboards module. With the growth of DevOps in enterprises, one of BMC's biggest focus areas is the way IT service management and IT operations management can align to better enable the success of DevOps in organizations. We've seen this year, for example, the 2021 State of DevOps report published by Puppet and sponsored by BMC highlight the problem of enterprises getting stuck in the middle, with DevOps growth initially being rapid, but then stalling as DevOps tries to scale into the complexity of the broader enterprise. One of the key challenges highlighted in that report is the friction caused by handovers between different teams. This is something we've talked about for quite a long time when we think about measures like swarming. One of the real success factors for DevOps, like any Agile practice, is the smoothness and velocity with which work flows along its value chain, and that includes often work transitioning between different individuals and teams. If everything relies on simply reassigning from one queue to another, then often the work does not progress at the speed required to enable successful DevOps. But even in day-to-day service management before the emergence of DevOps, we've for a long time seen individuals in support organizations work with each other on collaboration tools, even if off the record, to get their job done. This is something we really want to harness and enable through integration with collaboration platforms like Microsoft Teams. We did previously release an ITSM ChatOps module on Microsoft Teams several years ago, but Microsoft Teams has adapted and evolved considerably since then, and we've been able to work with Microsoft to help us get the best out of the upgraded platform. So what we have here is a new ChatOps module that has a much better user experience and is much easier for people to deploy. It will be able to be deployed straight from the Teams App Store, whereas previously it needed an administrator to put our previous Teams module into a predefined channel. Now with this one, users will be able to add it to any chat, channel or meeting they want, and will be able to interact with ITSM from the tool. Not only that, there's also a bunch of functionality from the AIOps module. So operations and service management users who previously somewhat existed in silos are able to directly work together on the collaboration platform with the valuable features of BMC's tools available in full view of everyone right there in the chat. So let's do a short demonstration of this. I have a Microsoft Teams client here in a staging environment. My calendar doesn't normally look this empty, I assure you. And what I can do now is I can come to the application list over on the left. When I open this up, you'll see that there is a BMC Helix application there, and that's our ChatOps bot waiting to be used. As I said, you'll be able to add this to any existing meeting, but what I'm going to do is just open up a direct conversation with it for this demo. Now when I do that, you'll see it opens up a conversation, and I can now proceed to interact with this bot using these commands. Now what this does is it delivers the goal of ChatOps, which is to enable me to work together with a group of people on records in the system, but within the collaboration tool. So as I sign in here, what I get access to now is basically a lot of the value of the ITSM tool, but accessible directly from a conversation or a meeting or a channel in Teams. So from this point, I can invite anybody who's available on that Teams infrastructure. I can, some of them may be other ITSM users, so they could interact with the tool as well. As you see, I'm able to query a list of my group's tickets, and when I pick out one of those tickets, so I can just click on that, I get this preview card. Everyone sees this preview card in the conversation, so we're all talking about the same thing. And from there, I can do things like access the work log info. I can add a new entry to that. So what I'm going to do is click Add Note. When I do that, I get this dialog, and I'm the only person who sees this dialog because it's popped up to sort of help guide me through the process. But now when I click to add that note, let's make it public. I could, if I wanted, add an attachment. I click to add that, and now that's added to the work info on the ITSM record. But importantly, everybody in the conversation also sees what I've done. So as I say, when we're working as a group, that enables people to keep work visible. In addition to adding the data to the work info, I can do things like updating the status. So having been guided through that, we can now look at that activity log. And again, everybody can see that status change. So, it's a nice interface which covers incidents, problems, and changes. Our research has shown those are the things that are most frequently collaborated on. The actual ticket itself is only one click away. I can just click on that and open it up in ITSM. So if I do need to go and use the broader set of features in the ITSM module, that's very straightforward to do. So really the value here comes from us delivering a set of the core features of ITSM within the context of where people are working in a conversation. And by doing this in Teams, we get this really good user interface capability. As I say, we've worked closely with Microsoft to get the best of this, really. It also enables us to expose key Teams features. So if we decide to have a breakout meeting or a follow-up, with one button I can click Schedule Meeting, and it pops up this nice interface in Teams to allow me to do just that. The meeting can, of course, then run with the bot in place for further ChatOps activity. As you see, anytime I want, I can just enter Help to bring up the list of commands. And you might also notice that there are a bunch of AIOps commands in there as well. So this does actually cross over a lot of the capabilities of both modules. If I just want to search for a ticket, that's pretty straightforward. I just type View Ticket and I can enter part of the ID of that ticket. So here it's found me a matching change and a matching problem. And again, I can just click to view a similar looking card for the change request. And I can go and do things to that change request like update its status. So let's say I want to send this one for approval. I can just set that to request for authorization, update that status, and once again, when we look at the activity, we can see the specific update that has been made. So everyone in the conversation can see that update without having to go and look at the ticket back in ITSM. For everyone who has our AIOps module as well, you get the benefit of being able to access things like live views of service status health. So I can look at services with, for example, critical status at the moment. When I enter that command, I get another kind of list card back which shows me the services that match, and I can just click on that and I can start viewing things like the related incidents that are part of this critical situation on this service. So again, really kind of joining operations and ITSM scenarios together in the way that things really have tended to converge for a lot of our customers now. And I can get direct access to things like the AIOps system dashboard and probable cause information from right here in the ChatOps module by just clicking one click to launch that in the AIOps interface. So again, this is really conducive to situational analysis by people who would typically be working separately in operations and ITSM disciplines, which is something that is really becoming a thing of the past now. The technology is so close to the end user that mostly we see this being a major area of convergence, and by pulling this together here, we allow those users to much better work together. Coming back to the presentation now, I'm going to move from the agent to agent chat scenario of ChatOps to the customer to agent scenario that is live chat. So this is the chat that's used by end users who are connected up to a service desk agent via a conversational interface of their choice, and they're supported by service desk agents using the live chat page within ITSM. This interface for service desk agents has already had some incremental improvements over past releases, and we're continuing in that theme here. The agent will now be able to open up the ticket after the chat has closed, and the chat session ID can be added to the call log entry to enable better review and troubleshooting of the issue. With these enhancements, we're now able to deprecate the former interface which was built on mid-tier. Finally, I'd like to mention that this release also provides a new set of APIs for ITSM. You may be interested to know these are what was used as the connection point for the ChatOps module. So this gives us in the ADE platform layer a brand new set of APIs, first-class REST APIs, that will enable you to make any other integrations that you may wish to use directly to the same connection points that we use for modules like ChatOps. So thanks very much. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Rahul Vedak to talk about dashboards and reporting.
Thanks, John. I will continue this momentum around list of exciting new features with reporting and dashboard focus. Solution that I'll be talking today is BMC Helix dashboards and what new capabilities we added in this release. To refresh our memories, in 21.02 release of BMC Helix, we announced availability of BMC Helix dashboard for various service management solutions, including ITSM. Essentially, BMC Helix dashboard added a plugin for connecting to converged platform, and that enabled all applications using this converged AR and innovation suite platform to analyze and visualize data with BMC Helix dashboard. And if you're not attended the webinar on BMC dashboards, I strongly recommend watching webinar recording from July this year, where we demoed BMC Helix dashboard for specifically for service management products in a great detail. Coming back to 21.3, new features in Helix dashboard can be broadly categorized into two areas. One is new content, new out-of-the-box dashboard, and the second is new capabilities, including new chart type, new functional capabilities. Let's start with out-of-the-box content first. When it comes to new out-of-the-box dashboard template, we added many of them in 21.3 release. For the first time, we added content for CMDB and asset module. Let's start with those. CMDB overview dashboard gives us insight into the CI volume, CI creation trend, CI distribution by class, and CI distribution by type. You can apply filters right here to look at this data specific for a data set, like asset in this case, or you could select multiple data sets from the filter list. CMDB data quality dashboard, at kind of the name suggests, this dashboard provides actionable information for configuration managers to improve CMDB data quality. It shows information about duplicate CIs, computer system with serial number, token ID by name, and the computer system without OS, virtual machines without host, orphan CIs, CIs tagged as marked as deleted, and so on and so forth. For asset management, we have 4 new dashboard template. Asset overview dashboard gives asset distribution as how many unassigned asset, how many assets coming up for refresh in next few months, and how recently assets are scanned. And the same metrics are analyzed further for site or in the manager or asset primary capability distribution. Similar to this, we have added asset inventory, asset contract, and asset compliance dashboard. Moving next, we have dashboard that provides some insight into request. Apart from key stats around request on the top, this request overview dashboard will also reveal some interesting insight, like what channels are used to create requests and what fulfillment engine is used to fulfill this request. Similarly, what are some of the top 10 services requested by users. Other channel dashboard shows analysis of channels used. Pie chart shows share of various channels for request submission. This will give you information if users are adopting new channels like chatbot. A trend chart on the right shows the same channel which are used, but here it shows the data on the monthly basis. Line chart at the bottom is a shift left analysis. While you may have introduced various modern channels for request submission, this chart will depict if your organization is truly able to make progress towards organization's shift left strategy. The result in this chart are probably for the most optimistic scenario, where over a period of time, users are gradually shifting from channels that require service desk assistance to channels which are self-service era for the request. Moving next, there are 2 new dashboards for business workflows, and both focus on service feedback for cases. The first one here shows the CSAT and survey feedback for various lines of business. So that's the drop down that you see on the top. It shows details of average CSAT rating, survey response rate, groups that got highest and the lowest ratings, and so on. Second dashboard template shows similar CSAT and survey feedback for business workflow cases, but with a drill down to a group and assignee performance. So that was a quick overview of various dashboards that we added in this release. Next, we added support for new plugins or chart type. So we added a traffic light plugin, which is kind of self-explanatory here. In this example, we are showing the status of few devices with the traffic light chart here. Another one is world map panel plugin. This world map plugin shows the tile map of world that can be overlaid with circles that represent the data point from say incidents or requests or the events from the Helix Monitor solution. Both of these plugins, the traffic light and this world map plugin, are essentially Grafana plugin that we have made available as part of Helix dashboard solution. The third and the fourth plugin that we'll discuss now are exclusively built by BMC. So combination chart is kind of a common chart type that combines bar chart and line chart in a single visualization. We added this new combination chart type, and you can see some examples of how it can be used. So here you can see the combination chart can be used for as a bar chart here. Similarly, it can be used as a line chart. Here you see the true combination chart capability here, where you can see the time series data, the hours here, and then you have two metrics, two axes, one for CPU utilization, another for memory utilization on the right side. Similar to this chart, combination chart, you have this chart with some of the numbers actually shown on the screen. So those are additional configuration you see. Or you have this another chart here where you are looking at three different metric time series on the same chart here. So those are different ways how combination chart can be used. And then we have this new record details type plugin added. Very often users want to see incident or change details in a key value pair and not in the tabular format that most of the reporting tools display. To address this requirement, we have added this new record details plugin. And in this example, you can see that I've extracted all the incident information in easy to comprehend and easy to print format for incident. So each rectangle here record detail plugin, and I have added multiple of these plugin, one for customer information, another for status down below for incident categorization here, right? So we can add many of these, and that can collectively make your one dashboard. I can do the same for changes, work order, tasks, requests, cases, or even for non-ITSM objects like Helix Monitor events as well. There is also update to report scheduling capability in this release. So we supported PDF as the only format so far for report export and report schedule. We are expanding in this area and adding support for CSV and Excel format as well. So during scheduling, the one screen you see here, you can choose between PDF, CSV, and Excel option. When you select CSV, remember that it is only applied for tabular panels, whereas the PDF and Excel can be used for any panel or chart type. Same Excel option is also available. This option available in the download section. So while we are on this topic of export, one small but useful improvement here is for PDF format. Here you have additional options to select PDF layout. So grid is a simple page layout, and what was available earlier as well, essential ability to see the entire dashboard in a PDF as it appears on the screen. Now there is also additional simple layout on the other hand, which will show each panel as a separate PDF page. That way this layout offers enough real estate for all the details for each panel in the dashboard. And here are some examples of this new single page layout. Moving beyond reporting and dashboard topic, next we'll discuss changes to our workflow engine, that is Innovation Suite and other platform components like CMDB and SSO. I'll start with CMDB and SSO update first, and then we'll have Robert share updates on the Innovation Suite. CMDB journey in recent releases have been focused on UI and usability. With Adobe Flash being a history now, our focus on CMDB has been mostly centered around CMDB UI. That is to make sure we have feature parity for the most commonly used functions, as well as making usability improvements to the new UI based on user feedback. In line with this, we made few changes to CMDB UI in 21.3 release. In the CMDB Explorer, we enhance quick edit capabilities to edit name, description, impact direction for CIs and relationship. That will potentially eliminate an extra step that was previously required to go to corresponding AR form and update this information from the form UI. Similarly, we added option in CMDB Explorer to collapse parents and collapse children CI. And you'll find this option similar to the collapse option in the older Flash-based CMDB console. This option will be particularly useful when you have, the CMDB Explorer gets cluttered with the presence of large number of CIs on the screen, and then you can use this collapse CIs for meaningful visualization on the screen. One more usability change is done to Class Manager UI. Previously, users had a challenge to see class details such as normalized relationship, or if you select a class and then return to the parent screen, user had to scroll down again to get to the next class. So we have addressed those UI and usability issue, and we have some kind of pop-up available that shows you all the normalized relationship information in a pop-up window here. We have added a new attribute, new cloud ID under BMC base element class. This new cloud ID attribute is populated by BMC Helix Discovery to uniquely identify all the cloud resources from multiple cloud providers. So that was update on CMDB 21.3. Let us talk about Helix SSO changes. First and most visible change for SSO will be for customers operating in different geographical regions. Users from such organization will now have option for login page and other end user pages to be available in their own locale. Helix SSO has now added support for additional 14 locales in 21.3 release, and thereby now it supports total 25 different locales for end user pages. Other enhancement for SSO is specifically useful for multi-tenant or multi-realm deployment of Helix SSO. We have now enabled self-service administration for managing tenant or realm level configurations. So for example, tenant administrator for specific tenant or specific realm can now set up SAML on their own without raising a request with SSO administrator to do this on their behalf. So those were quick updates for CMDB and SSO. Let me turn it over to Robert for some exciting new stuff we have added for Innovation Suite 21.3 release. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Robert Curley, here to tell you about the changes that are coming in Innovation Studio in the 21.3 release. We made a number of enhancements to the platform-supplied grid view component. We improved how the grid behaves when text in a cell does not fit on a single line, so that the rows automatically adjust their height to fit word wrapping rather than truncating the text. An expression can now be used to dynamically change the emphasis of text by setting the styling, such as font size, bold, italicized, and color within a cell. Expressions can also be used to set an icon in a cell. These together allow the developer to change font and icons in a grid at runtime to indicate things like the current status of an issue, for example. And lastly, we added action menu dropdowns as a column in the grid so that developers can add direct actions which users can take on an item in the row of a table. We listened to our customers' feedback and made some user experience improvements to the codeless development tools when selecting groups of items to be copied and pasted. We also added direct access to process history logs in the process management console so that developers have improved capability to debug their codeless applications. New in 21.3 is cutting and pasting of objects between different bundles to enable the use of content packages. Content packages are a means to package a set of changes of an application, such as business workflows. This way, a set of customizations for a particular line of business can be immediately applied to an application for that particular use. For example, a set of customizations can be built for business workflows to immediately transform it into a field services app or a facilities management app. Similar to the addition of Jitterbit connectors in the previous release, we now support MuleSoft connectors in Innovation Studio. With this change, customers who use MuleSoft as their preferred iPaaS vendor can now leverage their integrations through MuleSoft in Innovation Studio built apps by adding MuleSoft-based connectors in processes and business rules. One of the more significant changes in this release is the unification of the licensing across Remedy and Innovation Studio-based applications. Both fixed and floating licensing is available for building applications in either Remedy or Innovation Studio. Furthermore, a single platform license works for running both apps built in Remedy and apps built in Innovation Studio. In other words, Remedy and Innovation Studio licenses are no longer separate. The last significant change in 21.3 is that customers can now track the usage of their custom-built applications using platform-supplied tracking. Previously, tracking was based only on license usage. Since a single license can be used to run multiple custom applications, customers had no way of seeing how many users were using the individual applications they built. With this change, customers can now see the unique number of sessions and users of each of their custom-built applications.
Thanks, Ravel and Robert. This is Robin Ashford. I'd like to talk about our on-premises release. We expect to release 21.3.01 in mid-December for our on-premises customers. We're expanding our support in this release to include Kubernetes 1.18 through to 1.2.1 and OpenShift 4.6 through to 4.8. We've been listening very closely to customer feedback about the new containerized release. Many of our customers would like to be able to deploy onto public cloud managed Kubernetes. There are a number of services out there, the most popular being Azure Kubernetes Service, AWS Elastic Kubernetes Service, and Google Kubernetes Engine. We will be certifying the deployment of our Innovation Suite 21.3.01 release on these platforms after GA. So you can expect to see these added to our support matrix and instructions for how to deploy from December and into the new year. The 21.3 release includes a number of new features, most notably all the enhancements that we've talked about today, but also BMC Helix dashboards and ITSM Insights will be brought on premises for the first time. ITSM Insights includes native AI capability delivered within the platform, and BMC Helix dashboards, as you've seen today, is a fantastic new reporting solution that will be available for the first time on premises. Thanks very much for your time today. Over to you, Peter.
Thanks, Robin. And that really shows that we are continuing to be committed to on-premises as a deployment option here. We know that many customers will benefit from a SaaS option, but we also know that a number of customers cannot move right away to the SaaS option here. And so we, with the investment that we did in container deployment, we're offering a modern deployment approach that can be highly automated. Okay, that leaves me only a few minutes to wrap up this webinar. Just as a summary of what you heard so far here, 21.3 is really I would say, a major release. If I look back at this calendar year, we certainly had introduced a number of very important capabilities around containerization, around platform convergence, etc. But 21.3 certainly introduces, with our Digital Workplace Studio, with our major incident management capabilities, with our first foray into service ops on the incident screen, as well as in our chat ops interaction. It really introduces a number of significant new capabilities that are part of our ITSM suite. And of course, we also continue to enhance our underlying innovation suite platform. And again, we're doing that ultimately to help you establish more modern ITSM practices, that you can really leverage the benefits of these more modern practices. We are helping you to gain the advantages of AI technologies that are able to automate things that were traditionally human-based, and that are also helpful in making more sense of the increasing amount of data. And then last but not least, again, we show how you can combine service and operations management for better outcomes for your customers inside and outside your organization, right? So again, that on-premises release will be available soon, but all these great capabilities that you heard today are available as part of our 21.3.0 release in SaaS.
Thank you. And now I'll take us through the self-help in contacting BMC. The YouTube channel where this webinar will be posted is listed here. It contains past webinars as well as a rich set of how-to videos. The Connect with BMC Helix ITSM and Remedy webinar schedule is available at this community's link. As always, contacting technical support via web, phone, email, and these social channels is available. At this time, that will conclude this webinar. Thank you for attending.